I am Susan Sharp Campbell, Associate for Educational Ministry for the Presbytery of West Virginia, and this is an orientation overview for the August 18th Presbytery meeting to be held at First Presbyterian Church in Fairmont, West Virginia. My hope is that you have or will download the Presbytery packet from the email sent out on Wednesday, August 8th, or from the Presbytery website, www.wvpresbytery.org, to your computer or tablet so that you'll have it available to you when we meet. Presbytery is no longer printing packets for everyone, but if you do need a printed packet, one will be waiting for you as long as you call the office or email the office prior to noon on Wednesday, August 16th. Whether you download the packet or request a hard copy, please don't plan to use the internet at the church during the meeting. It is limited and needed for presenters. In the Presbyterian material, you'll find 3 sections: the packet for the meeting, which includes the proposed docket and reports, the bulletin for morning worship, and flyers to take back to your session and church to inform members of upcoming events. As we try to save trees and paper and money, these flyers are no longer being snail-mailed. But that doesn't mean they're less important to keep your people informed. When you share your experiences and what happened at this meeting as you report back to the session, please share these flyers as well. As you read the packet and prepare for the meeting, I encourage you not to make up your mind on how you're going to vote on anything before you get there. We believe that as we gather in councils, the Spirit of God leads us in discernment and decision-making together. Sometimes the Spirit speaks in the voices of those with whom we agree. Other times the Spirit speaks in the voices of others in surprising ways. Reading, praying, and trusting God guides us together will prepare you for the meeting. Now on to the meeting. Upon arrival, you'll be greeted by parkers and greeters who'll help you find your way to refreshments and registration. The meeting will start promptly at 10 a.m. Some of the key people to note at this meeting are Amy Parker. Amy is our moderator, and she serves as the pastoral assistant Christian educator at Village Chapel Presbyterian Church in Charleston. Ed Thompson is our general presbyter. His written report can be found beginning on page 7. And Maureen Wright is our stated clerk. Her report begins on page 4. After the moderator calls the meeting to order, Rebecca Mim, pastor of Fleming Memorial Presbyterian Church in Fairmont, will bring greetings, for First Presbyterian Church is currently without a pastor. There'll be a brief time of business as we welcome new teaching elder Zach Morton, pastor of First Presbyterian Church, Morgantown, Nua Corey Bailey, a minister at large, and Casey Linneman, pastor of the Church of the Covenant in Grafton. We will also seat Wayne Mizell, a minister member of New Brunswick Presbytery at First Presbyterian Church in Hinton, as a corresponding member. We will welcome Julia Hancock, a member of the new worship community, Davis and Elkins College Chapel. And we'll conclude this section with asking pastors to introduce ruling elder commissioners from their churches who are attending Presbytery as commissioners for the first time. Following the approval of the docket, we will vote on the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda are those that are not likely to generate discussion, and we pass all these items with one vote. However, if any one person would like for an item on the consent agenda to be discussed later in the meeting and request that it will be removed, it will be removed and taken up later. Being on the consent agenda does not mean an item is not important. It just means that those planning the meeting did not think it would generate discussion. You will find the items on the consent agenda on page 3 of the packet. They include requests for excused absences, dates and place for 2019 Presbytery meetings, approval for communion at several Presbytery-sponsored events, enrollment of an inquirer, that the offering at this meeting be used to address hunger through the PCUSA Sensibility Program, the approval of moderators in churches without installed pastors, and the approval of a variety of pastoral covenants. You'll find additional information about these items on the pages indicated. If, as you review these items, you have questions or concerns, all you have to do is ask for a particular item to be removed when the consent agenda is on the floor for discussion. Part of the morning of each Presbytery meeting is used for education, information, and relationship building. At this meeting, we will hear from Orlando Carr of the Presbyterian Foundation as he leads us in reflecting on the theme, Creating a Culture of Generosity. Orlando led one of our toolbox courses in 2017 and has a great deal to offer to us. Following Orlando, Nellie Howard, our Resource Center Director, will share resources. These and many others in the Resource Center display can be checked out throughout the day. If you have already checked out resources that you're finished with, you may also return these to her at this meeting. We'll conclude the morning with worship. As part of worship, we will reaffirm our baptismal vows and celebrate the sacrament of the Lord's Supper. Lynn Proudfoot, ruling elder from Davis Memorial in Elkins, Mike Seeley, pastor of First Parkersburg, Zach Morton, pastor of First Morgantown, Rebecca Mim, pastor of Fleming Memorial, John Morrison, organist at First Fairmont, and the Cambridge Handbell Choir will lead us in worship. You will find the worship materials on pages following the evaluation form at the end of the packet. Again, if you would like a printed bulletin, please print the worship bulletin and bring it with you. Following lunch, we return to the formal business of the Presbytery with reports from committees, a commission, and Presbytery staff persons. Committee reports have two parts. The first part contains recommendations from the committee that needs to be acted on by the Presbytery. The second part contains items of information. Many of these are events that are coming up in the future and or the ongoing work of the committee in the coming months. Please remember that the information section is an important part of every report, and don't forget to read that section as you read over the recommendations that are at the top of each committee report. In the stated clerk's report on page 4 under information, you will find the good news of a baptism at the Davis and Elkins College Chapel, which is somewhat unique as most baptisms are part of session records. As a new worshiping community, however, the baptism is reported here. At this point in the packet, you'll find procedural matters, these that guide us as a presbytery. These include principles of parliamentary law, which are courtesy to all, one item at a time, majority rule, respect the rights of the minority, justice for all, and partiality for none. In general, these guide us in how to work and play well and respectfully with others as we meet together. As items are discussed, pro and con speakers will alternate, with individuals needing to identify the position he or she supports. When one has spoken on a pending question, all others wishing to speak will be heard before the person can speak a second time. It takes special permission for someone to speak on the same question more than twice. On this page, you will also find provisions from the Presbytery's manual that are helpful for this meeting. All new items of business must be presented in writing to the stated clerk before lunch, unless a different deadline is set. It tells us who, in addition to the ruling elder commissioners to this meeting and minister members of the Presbytery, have the ability to speak, also called privilege of the floor with or without vote at this meeting. On the last section on page 5, you'll find procedural rules. Everybody speaking to the Presbytery for whatever reason needs to do so from a microphone. Once the speaker is recognized by the moderator, the person needs to introduce himself or herself with a name, church name, or relationship to the Presbytery. It's a matter of courtesy, an awareness that some people don't hear as well as they used to, and some don't talk as loud as they think they do, and though we'd like to think so, everybody in the room doesn't know everybody else. The limitation of debate is 30 minutes per main motion, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes per speech, although this item must be approved by 2/3 of those voting on the 18th. As you read the packet, if you see an item you think you'd like to speak to, I'd suggest that you write your remarks down in advance and focus on the issue, not how short your time to speak is. Motions coming from committees don't need a second, as more than one person has already been interested in the recommendation coming before the Presbytery. Page 6 gives you a guide to motion basics. Following the report of the General Presbyter Ed Thompson, our General Assembly Commissioners, Larietta Ellis, Randy Fife, John Bolt, and myself, along with our Young Adult Advisory Delegate Paul Brady, will be reporting on our experiences and the actions of the 223rd General Assembly, which met in June in St. Louis. The Administration Committee, then, appointed to consider and discern the best thing to do with the property vacated by the Presbyterian Church of the Covenant in Hurricane, is reporting to this meeting of the Presbytery. You will find their action and its rationale on page 11 of the packet. This does not require a vote, as the Commission was given the power in its creation to instruct the trustees to sell without further Presbytery action. In addition to the items on the consent agenda, the leadership team is presenting a recommendation to provide training and preparation for ruling elders, particularly those in churches without pastoral leadership, but not limited to them, to preside at communion in their particular churches, that is, their churches of membership. One of the responsibilities of the presbytery is to train specific ruling elders to provide at the Lord's Supper when it deems it necessary to meet the needs of congregations to celebrate the Lord's Supper at least quarterly. As this is a lengthy recommendation, and it's frowned upon when chairs read recommendations as printed, please familiarize yourself with it before the meeting. You will find additional information and dates and places for many of these events to be held around the presbytery in this report. The Bluestone Committee report provides a summary of the summer camping program, the fall schedule, and use of Bluestone by outside groups. The Stewardship Committee has a lot of pages with a lot of numbers to be considered. On pages 17 to 20, you'll find the 2019 budget that the committee is recommending be approved. Pages 21 to 26 report on budgeted versus actual spending and give a statement of our financial position through the first 6 months of the year. Pages 27 to 30 report on benevolence pledges and per capita by congregation for the first 6 months of 2018. Pages 31 to 33 provide financial information for Bluestone and Friends of Bluestone for the same time period. Next is Good News from the Pews. Good News from the Pews is a time for ruling elder commissioners only to share with the presbytery good things happening in their churches so that we're able to celebrate with them. And maybe we can even find ideas to take back to our own congregations. Some might wonder why the Vocations Committee is asking that Jay Nunley be enrolled as an inquirer for ministry effective February of 2017. It's a good question, and perhaps the best answer is that in the midst of a committee leadership transition, it was simply overlooked. Jay first met with the Vocations Committee in November of 2016, and the committee voted then to recommend him as an inquirer. So the hope is that the presbytery will post-date this so as not to hold Jay up in pursuing his call to ministry of word and sacrament. Also, as part of the Vocations Committee report, you're reminded that the beginning of Presby Prep is fast approaching. The first course is Biblical Interpretation. This will be held on different September Saturdays at Westminster Presbyterian Church in Charleston, Beckley Presbyterian Church, and the First Presbyterian Church of Buchanan. It's not too late to register. Please note that Presby Prep is the first year of the Authorized Lay Preacher Commissioned Ruling Elder Preparation Program, but it's also open to any interested person. Perhaps it will just give you a chance to be a better ruling elder. The Nurture Committee's written report contains a great deal of information about upcoming events for persons of all ages. Please consider where you or someone you know might engage in opportunities to grow in faith and engage in service. The report they present at Presbytery will focus on the Presbyterian Youth Triennium as the committee seeks to get the word out on this life-changing, faith-nurturing event for high school students that will happen next summer on the campus of Purdue University. Please share the information flyer you receive with those who work with youth in your congregation, as well as parents and grandparents of youth. The nominating committee will be recommending members and chairpersons for some of the presbytery's committees, and a moderator-elect for the presbytery. There will be, as always, the opportunity for additional nominations from the floor. Please remember, however, that anyone whom you wish to nominate for any of the committees or positions must have been asked in advance and agreed to serve before being nominated. In addition to the recommendation that the offering at this meeting be used to address hunger, you'll find information about ongoing work of the Mission Committee, including grants awarded, plans for a trip to Nyeri, Kenya, our sister presbytery, in 2019, and the visit of a Presbyterian peacemaker this fall. All of the recommendations in the Ministry Committee will likely have already been approved by the time we get to their report for their part of the consent agenda. You'll find complete information on pages 37 and 38. Information number 1 refers to new guidelines for churches between pastors. While these guidelines are not included in the packet, they can be found on the Presbytery's website. Click on the Documents tab and then on the Pastoral Call Forms tab and find the Process for Calling a Pastor document. Information item 3 gives specific information on upcoming boundary training events for all pastoral leaders. There will be 3 of these this fall, and the second 3 will be held in 2019, with specifics yet to be determined. As part of the ministry committee report, John Bolt will be commissioned as a commissioned ruling elder. Finally, in this section, please share the information registration page that you'll be given about the small church conference with your session and congregation. The final written report in the packet is that of the administration committee. They do not have an oral report for this meeting. At the beginning of the business meeting, hard copies of the meeting evaluation will be distributed. Please take time to complete this before you leave. These forms help us with the planning of future presbytery meetings, and we take them very seriously. Please put the evaluation forms and your name tags in boxes by the door as you leave. We will read the evaluations and will recycle the name tags. The meeting will conclude with a charge and benediction by the moderator. And then you'll find 2 more sections in the packet. The worship bulletin that I've already referred to, and the flyers and information section. Here you will find other information and or registration forms for the following. Playology on August 25th. Presby Prep beginning September 15th. Biblical Stories and Storytelling, the Toolbox course on September 8th. Presbyterian Disaster Response Training on September 27th. Bluestone's Fall Getaway Retreat, October 5 to 7. The Friends of Bluestone Golf Outing on October 13th. The Preaching Toolbox course on October 27th. The Older Youth Retreat in November 16 to 18. And the Westminster Foundation of West Virginia. By the end of the day, I suspect you will think it has been a long day, a long meeting, and you have long distances to travel. You will also, however, and I hope this is what you remember, you will have been about very important work as part of the Presbytery of West Virginia. But also remember, your work as a commissioner at this meeting isn't complete until you share the information gleaned, the actions taken, and the flyers shown with your session. As always, I hope this video is helpful to all who are attending the August 18th Presbytery meeting in Fairmont, especially to those of you for whom this is your first meeting as a commissioner. If you have any feedback on the video, please feel free to let me know when you see me at the meeting. I'm especially interested in what might I include to make this video more helpful. Thank you. See you on the 18th.